Welcome back, everybody. Today's Joy of Gratitude is sponsored in memory of Tzippa Bas Moshe Yosef. So we're in the period of time called the Omer, which is the time where we count 49 days from the second night of Pesach until the festival of Shavuot. And there's many things we could talk about with regard to the Omer, including that I've got to wait yet another 8 days, I think it is, before I can trim my beard. So lots of things to talk about, but I'd like to talk about two aspects of the Omer that are often overlooked, and they're often not talked about at all. Perhaps because they're so basic. So here we go. On the day of the counting of the Omer, of the first day of the Omer, in biblical times, they would bring an offering to the temple of the first harvest of barley. Apparently, again, I mentioned in the last session that I don't really know much about agriculture, but apparently barley ripens before wheat. And Pesach time was the time of the ripening of barley. And as the first part of the harvest, they would bring an offering to the temple of the very, very first grains of barley. And by the time it came to Shavuot, 50 days later, the wheat would be ready for harvesting. And they would bring 2 loaves of bread made of wheat to the temple as part of the wheat harvest. So we often nowadays, because we are not really connected to agriculture, the vast majority of us are not in agriculture. We are accountants, optometrists, lawyers, whatever it happens to be. We've completely lost our connection to the cycles of the earth and farming. And we can go to a supermarket and we can buy food whenever we want, and it's pretty much always available, often out of season. It's difficult to remember to be grateful for certain things when it's their time. So the Omer offering is the opportunity to be grateful for the most basic aspect of our diet, which is grain. Without grain, we wouldn't be able to make bread, which is the most basic food available. And there's 2 different types of grains that were mainly used. Barley, which was more used for animals, but could be used by humans, but it was a very low type of grain. And wheat, which was a much more important grain, much more human used. So this whole period of time from the beginning of the Omer until the end of the Omer is a time when we're supposed to be thinking about being grateful for the most basic aspects of our diet. That's the first very simple idea I want to take from the Omer. The second concept of the Omer is the actual counting of the days from that first Omer offering until Shavuot. We have 49 days, but the way the Torah describes it is 50 days or 49 days and 7 weeks. And from that, we therefore have a counting that includes days and weeks. We say today is I actually haven't counted yet today, so I'm not going to say it. But yesterday was, I think, 24 days, which is, quick mathematical calculation, 3 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. That's what I counted yesterday. So we have a combination of days and weeks. Weeks is a more of a generalized time, like a large unit of time. And then the parts of each unit, the separate days within that week. Time. That's really what I want to talk about today. The fact that time is something that we should really be appreciating. Every single minute that goes by is another gift. It's another opportunity. Now, there was a rabbi called Rabbi Meir. He's one of the students of Rabbi Akiva. He's sometimes called Rabbi Meir Balanes. You may have heard of him by that name, but he also appears as Rabbi Meir in the Gemara. Rabbi Meir has a fascinating explanation of a word in the creation story at the beginning of the Torah. It says that after Hashem created Adam, the first human, it says that Hashem finished all of creation. He said, he looked at his creation and he said, V'hinei tov ma'od. He realized it was very good. Everything was very good. And there's different explanations of the term ma'od, very. You may have heard an idea that tov is the inclination to do good. And ma'od, very good, is actually the inclination to do bad. We may have even talked about this because without having that free choice, we could never achieve true goodness and true greatness. But Rabbi Meir gives another explanation of that particular word, and it's fascinating. He says, you know what ma'od, tov ma'od is? Very good. He said, tov ma'od is death. Mavet, it's death. It's a rather scary statement to say. This rabbi's coming along and saying, oh, do you know what the greatest thing in the world is? Do you know what really the best thing, very good. You know what very good is? Very good is death. Is this a person who's flippant, who doesn't care about people's feelings? Well, on the contrary, the Gemara itself records the story of when Rabbi Meir's two sons passed away on a Shabbos. And his extremely intelligent special wife, Bruria, kept it quiet. She covered them with a sheet until he came home from the shul at the end of Shabbos. He says, where are my sons? And so she said, oh, because she didn't want to speak about the terrible thing that happened while it was still Shabbos. And she said, oh, they went to study. He said, well, I didn't see them turn up in the shul. So she manages to divert his attention. They make Havdalah. He's asking where they are, because she serves him the malava malka, the food that we have after the Shabbos, after Shabbos is finished. And only then, when she continues to, and while he's eating this malava malka, this meal after Shabbos, she turns to him with a question and she says, tell me something. Rabbi, you're my husband, you're a very wise rabbi. What should I do if somebody came and deposited two beautiful jewels with me some time ago, and now it's time to give it back? The person has come back to get his deposit back. So the Rabbi Meir said, well, of course you have to give it back. So at that point, she took him up to the bedroom where the two sons were lying on the bed. And at that moment, Rabbi Meir breaks out crying because he sees his two children there. And his wife says to him, but do you remember what you just said? We were given these two children as a gift. They were here for us for this period of time, and now Hashem has taken them back. And he turns to her and he says, you have comforted me. So clearly, I'm only mentioning that story just so you understand. We're not talking about some heartless, completely disconnected to emotion male who's just not capable. The Gemara itself talks about Rabbi Meir bursting out, and his wife has to give him the right way of thinking about the situation. That's not what we're talking about. So what does Rabbi Meir mean when he comes along and he says that death is like the truly great? It's just amazing. And I've seen several answers, but I think the simplest and most truthful answer is that without death, time would be meaningless. Without an end, without an actual end to time, why would we bother ever trying to achieve anything? Because there'd always be time. With endless time, if we were all eternal, if we were all infinite, what would be the point? Oh, I may as well sit and put my feet up. How would I ever achieve? In fact, I remember as a teenager, when I had assignments to give in, dreaming that I could halt time. I used to dream, this would be my dream, as sort of everything got out of control and I was, I got this to give in and this to give in, how am I going to, I wish I could halt time. Everybody else would freeze. I would then have, 48 hours to just do everything. And then I could press a button and everything would restart again and it would be amazing. That would be wonderful. But the reality is if I could keep on doing that, I probably wouldn't use those 48 hours or those 72 hours or however long it was. I probably wouldn't use it. I'd probably just waste my time. The concept of death as an ending, and the truth is every second dies. Every unit of time itself has a death. Every single moment we have it and then it's gone. The whole concept that something, each moment is not eternal, that everything has an end and therefore you have to use it properly. That is a gift. That's a gift. We're only here for a certain period of time. We don't know how long it's going to be. So we better use that time wisely. That concept that life has an ending, that every single moment that we live, once it's gone, is a gift that should help us drive to really achieve greatness. As long as we don't get weighed down by it, we mustn't get weighed down by it. You can get depressed by such things. But if you view it in a positive way and you use that to drive you to realize, if I don't grab this moment right now, that's it, I'm not getting it back. That is the simplest message of the counting of the Omer. We count weeks as larger blocks, but we also count days. Understand that each individual section of time has meaning, has use. And we shouldn't just kill time, as the phrase goes. Oh, what should I do to kill time today? How can I fill my time today? How many Netflix series can I watch one after the other to waste my time today? Why would we want to waste time? So that's the message that I would like to take from this period of time, appreciating the time we're given, appreciating the fact that time does have an end, and therefore we'll use it even better than we would otherwise. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I look forward to seeing you next week.